All right, and we should be good to go here, guys. Really excited to have our second stint here of the live clinic we're doing today. We talked a little more X's and O's in the first one, both on defense and on offense, and really excited to talk a little bit more about the kind of the development side of the game as opposed to the X's and O's side of the game here with Coach Jay Prepchuck. So Braden's going to be here running this again. Just some housekeeping. Guys, if you haven't already and you're watching this, please like the video. It just helps more coaches find it. So it's really helpful to us and it's helpful to other coaches who might be looking for Canadian football resources on YouTube. The more likes it has, the more likely YouTube is to suggest it to others. The other thing is if you comment on the video, you can let us know where you're watching from, anything like that. That also will trigger the algorithm to send us out to more and more people, which ultimately we want, as many people to have access to the Canadian football coaching, resources that right now the best we can do is be here online and learning. So really excited to talk quarterbacks with Coach Jay Prepchuck. Braden, I'll turn it over to you, and I'll make sure everything's good on the back end here. But thanks again for doing this, Coach. We appreciate it, and hope we didn't interrupt the golf game.
No, it was great. I had a great game, 2 over today, so I even got back in time to cut the grass. So it's a beautiful day out here in BC. Of course, I've been playing golf all year long, so a lot of people that are on my social media, you can see that, get a chance to post all the time. But thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. As a young guy, I grew up in Regina, Saskatchewan. So, had the passion for football, grew up watching Ron Lancaster and George Reed, and did move out to Vancouver in high school, played high school football. And one kind of unique thing about my situation was when I was going into between grade 11 and grade 12, our quarterback that had been our quarterback for many years in high school, he actually broke his leg. And all that previous time that I started playing football, even way back in Regina at Leibel Field, where a lot of people will know about from the prairies, of course, I was an offensive lineman. I was an offensive guard and a linebacker, and all the way through even grade 11, 167-pound starting guard for the Handsworth Royal football team. And our quarterback got hurt, broke his leg playing soccer early in February. And the coach came up to me and said, "Hey, Jay, you're going to be the quarterback next year." And I'm like, Coach, are you sure you're talking to the right guy? I have never played quarterback in my life. So, and he said, "Well, Prepchuck, you got big hands and you always play well when you play. You always beat me when we play in PE class and when we play touch football." So anyways, gave it a go. Grade 12 was my only year playing quarterback, and Simon Fraser University liked what they saw. Offered me a scholarship, went on, had some great teams, played with some great players at SFU. And so my point being there is that, it's not necessarily too late to develop a quarterback, and it doesn't have to be a guy that's, played quarterback for you all the way through. But had some great teammates, great success playing at Simon Fraser University. We had a chance to really throw the heck out of the ball, and we had tough competition, though. We were, playing Idaho and Montana, San Luis Obispo, Portland State. So it was tough going. And of course, a lot of the guys I played with went on and played in the CFL, but we had a chance to throw the heck out of the ball. After that brief tryout with Saskatchewan Roughriders, ironically, got a chance to get back home and try out for the Roughriders. Didn't make it back home, and coaching high school football all that time, and had some chances to coach at UBC. I was the head coach at UBC for 3 years, and learned a lot of my football from Frank Smith early in the 80s, what a lot of people know, of course, the legendary Frank Smith, and he was an amazing man. So from there, just continued to develop quarterbacks. This is my 28th year now of running the Jay Prepchuck quarterback camp. So it's great to be on, and any questions that you guys have, or, as we go through, you go through your season, or you go through your off-season development, anytime you want to message me, you can find me. There's only one Jay Prepchuck on Instagram and Facebook. Anytime you ever want to get a hold of me or send me tape of your quarterbacks, I'd be happy to help you out there. So, the number one thing, choosing your quarterback. I mean, that's obviously a difficult decision, right? Like, who is going to be the guy that you're going to rely on? Obviously, when we're in high school and we're coaching high school, it's not quite our livelihood like it is where a lot of, teams in the States where, they hire a football coach and he's also a teacher. We're, pretty well teachers first, and we are football coaches second. So, but still, you want to be able to choose somebody that, you can rely on, right? You want to choose somebody. I think, one of the things that I was fortunate enough to be a counselor, and So I had access to kids' report cards, right? And we start high school in most areas of Vancouver in grade 8. So the grade 7s coming in, we'd have a little tryout camp or maybe a couple of fun camps in June the previous spring before they came into school in September. And the kids that we felt were maybe potential quarterbacks, the 4 or 5 kids, I would actually get a chance to take a look at their report cards and see what their marks were like and see what their comments. And even if I had a chance to maybe talk to their grade 7 teacher to see, what kind of kid is this guy, right? Is he reliable, right? Is he, does he have a lot of absences? Does he, is he coachable? Is he teachable? Is he a hard worker? Does he get along well with others? Is he a strong leader? So, all things that we look at, but if you can try to groom somebody at an early age, then I think that's really important. So we were fortunate enough to, again, have, access to, some of the kids' information early in grade 8. And most of the high school teams here in Vancouver and BC, we have grade 8 team, and then we have a junior varsity team, grade 9 and 10, and we have a varsity team, grade 11 and 12. So, we want somebody that's going to be in our program for that full 5 years. And we ended up having a lot of success in our high school. And one of the main reasons was, we taught that quarterback early in grade 8, what our plays, what the search was, how to run the toss, how to run the counter play, how to run bootleg, how to run our quick game, and so on. So, those guys, it's kind of like university in the sense where, those quarterbacks had a chance to, play in our system for a full 5 years. And, by the time they got to grade 12, we didn't have to go over the footwork, or we didn't have to go over some of the reads as much that we would do, say, with a first year guy. So again, I think it's important that you get a kid that's reliable. That relationship, though, is so important. My high school football coach, Dave Pierce, who is still one of my very, very best friends. And, we get a chance to talk all the time still, and visit and play golf together. And, it's that relationship that we had and we developed as a quarterback coach, because it's a special bond. Certainly is a special relationship with you, whether you're the offensive coordinator, the quarterback coach, or you're the head coach, right? Because, those of you out there that have played quarterback, that it is the most difficult position in all the sports to play. And, there's so much to the quarterback position that you have to be able to learn that is important. So that relationship's important. Obviously, you want to try to find a good athlete. And I tell you, if I was coaching, and defensive guys know what I'm talking about here, if I was coaching high school football now, I would probably, really lean towards getting a really good, strong athlete. I know that sounds fairly obvious, but, I think running quarterback run plays, whether it's zone search or a lead search or a little bit of option, quarterback sweep, quarterback draw, quarterback trap, whatever it might be, to have that running option. And like I said, defensive guys out there, exactly what I'm talking about. It's hard to defend that when you spread things out and you run that quarterback in there. That's hard to do. And you can see in the NFL that all the, the teams, the Baltimores that are, having so much success by running the quarterback. Russell Wilson, of course, doesn't do it as much as he used to, but he's always going to be the threat to run. So, try to get an athlete that, is again, doesn't have to be the fastest guy, doesn't have to be the strongest guy, but just a guy that, can, run up the middle a little bit and can be tough and can take on, can gain 5 or 6 yards. And again, doesn't have to be the greatest athlete on your team. And, getting into athleticism, you want to pick somebody that, that plays multiple sports. And we all kind of know that that's a little bit of a fine line now, because, if you have a football player that maybe is also a basketball player or also a hockey player, we all try to promote that, right? But we're also finding now that some of those athletes, even 14, 15, 16 years old, some of the other sports that they play, they regulate a little bit what happens. And I know that, some of the elite basketball or volleyball players or soccer players that have played at the previous high school that I taught at, they were also involved in club teams. And, they had their playoffs maybe in November, but they maybe couldn't make. I know some teams that, some athletes that didn't play for their high school team because their club team had a game at the same day, right? So even though you want that really good athlete, I would make sure that, hey, is football your number one sport? Is football your priority? Play basketball, wrestle, run track, play rugby, do all those other sports. But just all I want from you is to know that football is your number one sport. And because we're going to dedicate a lot of time to you, and you're going to obviously dedicate a lot of time to to our school and our program, right? Make sure that athlete has passion, right? I mean, again, these are a little bit cliche-ish, but is that guy going to watch film on his own, right? Is he going to study the game plan? Is he going to know if you can get to the stage where you're going to do some check with me's, or you're going to run some audibles and so on? Does that guy put in the time? Has he done his homework? Has he got a passion for playing football? Has he got a passion to the extent that he wants to watch film and help with game plan and help prepare for your opponents? Again, another thing. And you know what? Hey, I say to kids, hey, listen, if you're not watching film, and you guys all know, if you're on Huddle or whatever system you're on, you can check to see how much film those players are watching. And if you have a quarterback that's not watching film, then boy, I tell you, that's trouble, right? And he needs to have, you need to have a chat with him, right? So definitely make sure that he's got a passion, and again, athletic, and it doesn't have to be. I think one of the biggest mistakes that we've all kind of made in high school football is picking the guy with the strongest arm. I mean, sometimes, again, we'd have the grade 7s line up and they'd have a throw off, right? Well, sometimes the kid that can throw the ball the furthest is not necessarily the kid that we want as a quarterback. He might not be the coachable type. He might not be dedicated enough to play football. So don't kind of pigeonhole yourself into that guy that has the strongest arm and he can throw the ball a mile, kind of thing, right? So other points that as far as coaching quarterback is concerned, it's so important to train in the off season. I mean, obviously, I run my camps. We're fortunate out here in Vancouver to be able to. I run my camps 12 months out of the year. So we start in January, and Farhan, who's coming on in a bit, New West, was always a big supporter. We ran our first camp was usually at his place in January. We ran one out in Abbotsford in the Valley, and we got started right away with our Prepchuck receiver quarterback camps in January, because it's so important, I think, to train. And again, you don't want to interfere. Maybe they're playing basketball, right? So talk to the basketball coach. Hey, listen, we're not doing anything crazy. We're not doing anything physical, but we want to throw maybe twice a week for 40, 45 minutes, and that's it. So start early in the season. Don't just all of a sudden, gosh, it's August and hey, we better get out and, throw some balls, right? Because as you know, with the throwing technique and with throwing the football, it is like any other sport, like any other, thing you do. You want to, get those repetition in and make it just a muscle memory thing, so that, once the season starts, how hard is it you don't have very much breakdown time, especially with quarterbacks, right? Because what are quarterbacks doing? They're usually warming up. And if they can warm up, obviously, before practice, that's a key thing to do, right? So they're warming up, or they're with the receivers, or they're doing, say, mesh with the running backs, or they're doing inside run, or they're into their skelly, right? So how often do you have a really good individual period with them? I know UBC, we maximize that. So every time so what Coach Neil would do is have special teams in the middle of practice, kind of different segments throughout the 2 hour or hour and a half practice, right? So what we would do is, when we went to punt, we would take quarterbacks over here. You've got 12 minutes. Let's do this drill, right? Or let's do this drill, or let's run, work on the footwork for this particular play that we're putting in that day. So as far as off season is concerned, get those guys working out, and find a quarterback coach, right? If you're not a quarterback coach, then hey, there's a lot of guys across Canada that do an excellent job, right? So many great quarterback coaches out there. And if you can, hook up to somebody that you rely on, that you trust, the kid, likes and knows your system. That's one thing that I try to do with my quarterback camps is, when I run a camp, maybe I'll run a camp for Langley and the team on Langley. I'll talk to them beforehand and I'll say, what offense do you run? Okay, well, we're under center and we run a lot of 3-step from under center. So I'll focus on skills to do with that, as opposed to, say shotgun kind of thing. I might go to another camp in White Rock, and the White Rock guys are going to say, hey, we're strictly out of shotgun. No problem. We'll run our drills obviously out of shotgun. So, find the guy that you trust, find the program, the quarterback coach that you trust, and, get those reps in, but get them early in the season, right? It's we run our academy out here right now. And again, we're fortunate with our weather, but we started our academy. Kids are out there basically about 1.5 times a week. And they're, some of the young coaches out there are, coaching up, and I'm trying to help those guys as well as obviously coach the quarterbacks, but it's the why. And again, you've heard this before through your coaching theory. It's not what. I mean, one of our young coaches the other day, hey, Johnson, you threw the ball into the ground. Well, Johnson's a smart kid, right? He saw that he threw the ball into the ground. It's not what he did. It's, why did he do that? Let's correct why. Maybe his shoulders were off, or maybe he was off balance, overstride, whatever the fundamental that he didn't master in that particular day is, and he didn't, master that fundamental. So, he had a bad throw. So let's focus on the what's, and not necessarily on the whys. Why did he, throw a bad pass, and, focus on doing that, right? Your system, what kind of system do you have, right? And, you've got a base system. I mean, we were always kind of open set, one back. We started that years and years ago. We were one of the first programs in BC to kind of get out of a regular double tight eye backs. And we started with our one back set. And, we were able to kind of, put our quarterbacks into those systems and into our system. So even though you have a system, make sure that quarterback kind of fits in that system. If you have maybe a smaller, faster quarterback, and you've got, your bootleg, your little bit of play action in there, then that's maybe the type of plays that you want to take out of your playbook and implement with that particular quarterback. So take your system and make sure that quarterback kind of fits into that system if you can, and work to have success that way, right? Again, we talked about run plays. Get the quarterback running, right? If you got a box with not 5-6 guys in it, let's run the ball. Let's spread it out and let's run the ball, right? You don't have to. You've got wide receivers. You've got receivers out there. They got to cover those guys, right? So they got to spread things out. You're in spread. They got to cover those things, and that's one of the things that we look at is we've had quarterbacks that don't have strong arms, and if guys going to load the box and we're still in an open set, then we really like to throw a lot of screens, a lot of bubble screens, a lot of quick hitch screens to the wide guys and get our linemen out blocking. So, it doesn't have to be a long pass, a 10, 15-yard pass to a wide receiver or on a bubble screen, is not obviously a difficult pass in the sense of it's not a long pass. So, you've got to, implement some of those plays if you're feeling that your quarterback maybe doesn't have that strong of an arm, right? A big thing is, try to get your guy, if you can. I'm going to try to show you guys. I know that a lot of you have this already in your systems. I showed a lot of coaches this previously, but I'm going to try to, if you've got coach's eye, hopefully you guys can kind of see that. Some guy named, I don't know, is that Tom Brady out there, Braden?
Looks pretty familiar to me. Might have won a couple things in
even that jersey, kind of weird seeing him in that brown or gold or red jersey, isn't it? But so there's your iPad, there's your coach's eye, and you can see you've got your little kind of shuttle down there. Can you see that okay, Braden?
Yeah, absolutely. Looks great, Coach.
Okay, so you're just slowing it down, and you're gonna videotape your guys, right? You're gonna show them the guys that do it right. Okay, did you know Tom Brady was left-handed? Oh, we're gonna Fraser right there, coming over top, and you got your quarterbacks. Okay, look at that, perfect. Hey, just no palm on the ball.
Spinning.
There you go. Look at it, wrist snap. Snap it down and through and right across. You get guys like if we go right to, everybody knows, you know, Michael Connor. I had the pleasure to work with Michael Connor, of course, at UBC. He's now just signed with Calgary, but I would tape every throw that he made, and Michael would take this home with him and he would watch it every single night. See,
That's a great tool, Coach. I've used it in the past myself.
yeah,
It's really great to be able to bring things down to a micro
yeah.
level for these
So
guys.
you can see you doing all sorts of different lines and so on, and analyze it with your kids. So, yeah, great tool. I mean, we, you know, you can analyze. You can put two quarterbacks together. Here's kind of a still that I use at a lot of my camps. You know, talking about posture, right? Obviously, this individual here has got his posture straight up, and this guy's kind of leaning a little bit, right? So I usually show the quarterbacks that kind of thing. So get the iPad out. You can put on your phone, install Coach's Eye. And again, I film lots of NFL stuff, and the quarterbacks obviously can see that and really appreciate that, right? So again, film your quarterbacks, get a chance whether you use that or whether you use any system that you can, but the Coach's Eye is an excellent system, and I know a lot of you guys out there already do that, right? You know, one thing that's interesting when I talk to quarterback coaches, when I talk to people about the NFL guys or CFL guys, college coaches, and Craig Smith, who a lot of you know out there, he was a long time, he coached with me at UBC and longtime scout in the CFL with Winnipeg and Saskatchewan. And, you know, he would travel down to the NFL teams and he would watch film, obviously watch practice, talk to the coaches, and, you know, the players that got cut would be coming up to Canada, right? So kind of a cool job, right? Get a chance to go to the NFL and do something like that, right? So Craig came to my camp in Regina a few years ago, and I said to him, I said, Craig, and he talked to our quarterbacks, right? I said, Craig, when you go down in the States and you watch the Denver Broncos practice, or you watch the Seattle Seahawks practice, you watch the quarterbacks, what is the number one thing you look at when you look at quarterbacks in the NFL? And surprisingly enough, you guys, can you guess? And he would say he watches their feet. And so I was just like, whoa. So it's, again, obviously not necessarily arm strength, but he watches their feet. What kind of feet do they have? Are they, you know, do they have kind of happy feet? Are they, you know, are his feet solid? Is he an athlete? All those different things that Craig looked for. So when I do my camps, I really talk to our quarterbacks, obviously, about footwork. And, you know, when I played a lot of racquetball, a lot of squash, and I skipped. I didn't know, I couldn't skip before, but I taught myself how to skip, and I skipped 3-4 times a week, over and over and over again. It's just that your little office, your little pocket that you throw the ball from, your feet are so important. When I get into some drills in a few minutes here, I'm going to be able to hopefully emphasize the footwork and get you guys the chance to look down and see, you know, how my feet work and how effective your feet or how ineffective you can be as far as throwing. Because I can watch a quarterback's feet and know if they've had a bad throw. I can watch their feet and I can tell if they haven't got enough power on the throw. I can watch a quarterback's feet and, you know, point out the mistake that they probably made as they progress through their throw. So another couple other real important points. You know, when you do drills with the kids, it's so important, like focus on one thing, right? Like how many times have we all been guilty of that? Quarterback maybe throws a bad pass and all of a sudden it's like you're telling them 3 or 4 different things. Or if you're teaching one thing about maybe high elbow or wrist snap, something like that, you know what? Let's just focus on one thing. Okay, let's focus on that elbow being high. If you're talking about high elbow when you're throwing the ball, then let's focus on drills to do with that. So, and tell them, this is our objective for this drill. This is why, you know, kids are smart now, right? They want to know why they're doing a certain drill. We're doing this drill because your elbow's not high when you release. And I know that a lot of you out there, you know, that's one of the common mistakes. And I'm going to show you a couple of things that hopefully can help your quarterback to get to get that higher release, right? So I release one thing, focus on one thing when you run a particular drill. Another thing that kind of, you know, when I see quarterbacks doing all the time, and I know that when they're warming up obviously with somebody kind of straight ahead on them, right? But once even when the quarterback's warming up, how many times, think of it, how many times in a game do quarterbacks throw the ball like directly over the middle? Not very many times, right? Certainly if you're playing flag football or touch football, you do that, right? But there's not many times when you're like, certainly you're going to run crossers and so on, and you're going to throw the ball over the middle. But when quarterbacks are throwing, so many times you'll watch quarterbacks and they'll throw straight on an angle with somebody, right? So I like to offset that, even if they're playing with each other, even if they're warming up with each other, they're still got to get their warm-up throws in. Make sure their feet are set, make sure their feet are pointing in the right direction, make sure their feet are on, because again, if your feet are off, your throw is going to be off. So have them angle throw, right? So just put one receiver 5 yards to the right of them, right? So he's throwing there, and every time they do a throw, maybe step 1 more yard outside or 1 more yard outside. Make sure obviously you're doing the same to the left-hand side. So always kind of have those angle throws in there so that the quarterback gets used to, you know, where his lead foot is, and making sure his elbow is in the right direction and so on, right? So make sure you offset. The other thing that we try to do in our camps is we talk about, you know, training your brain, training your mind, right? So what happens is when you're practicing, when do you throw the ball, especially in your warm-ups, right? When do you throw the ball? You throw the ball when you're ready to throw the ball, right? But when I say to the players, I said, when do you throw the ball in a game? And they all kind of look at you like, what are you talking about, coach? Well, when do you throw the ball in a game? In a game, you throw the ball when the receiver gets open, right? So you have to kind of train yourself. So even if they're playing catch with each other, I have the other quarterback just kind of pumping his arms like he's running on the spot and flash his hands. Pump, flash. Give me kind of an in look, give me an out look, give me a curl look, give me an over the shoulder look, and change it up all the time. So if I'm throwing to you, if I'm throwing to somebody, I want them to pump their arms, and when they flash, that's when I throw. So what am I doing? I'm also training my brain to throw when the receiver is open. So obviously that transition time from the time the receiver gets open to the time you get him the football is obviously crucial, that you get him the ball as soon as you can. You get that ball out of your hands and get going right away. So we're training our brain, we're training our mind to throw when the receiver gets open, not just, you know, casually throwing the ball and throwing the ball when the receiver, when you're ready to throw. You throw the ball when the receiver shows his hands and he gets ready. Okay. Also, don't always zoom in. Train your eyes as well, right? So if I'm throwing to somebody over here, I want to maybe look straight ahead. I'm kind of going to maybe freeze that safety, freeze the guy over here, and I'm looking straight ahead. And all of a sudden now, if I'm looking at the corner, so I'm kind of coaching myself. I'm learning how to use my peripheral vision, right? So I'm looking straight ahead, but out of the corner of my eye, I kind of see what's going on over there, right? I can kind of see that he's pumping his arms, and when he flashes, now I can throw. So train your eyes, train your brain, and be ready to throw the ball, okay? So kind of moving into some drills. And again, guys, if you have questions, obviously you're going to throw them out there. Anytime that I'm, that something comes up, or again, you want to get a hold of me, you're more than welcome to message me anytime, and we can chat, right? So obviously the first thing that we talk about a lot with our quarterbacks is the grip, right? So when you grip the ball, you want to make sure that, again, that you don't have any palm on the ball. And a lot of you have heard this before, but again, it's obviously good information to continue to stress with you, right? I, again, was blessed with big hands, right? So what I started to do, though, is I developed my grip and my throwing style. At that time, Terry Bradshaw was important. So I'm kind of dating myself, I know, but Terry Bradshaw was the big quarterback, of course, with the Steelers and winning many Super Bowls. So I'm watching Terry Bradshaw throw, and I'm like, So I used to kind of throw with my hand down, this index finger down right on the stripe, right? So when I watched Terry Bradshaw throw, he was like, you know, we all know, you can see that tip of that index finger on the tip of the ball, right? So that started moving my hand up the ball, and I got much more comfortable with being able to throw the ball with my index finger close to the tip of the football right there. And because when you throw the ball, that's your last finger off the ball, right? So it makes sense that when your finger is closer to the tip, you kind of get that snap off, and that's where hopefully you get the tight spiral. If this finger is down a little bit lower and you're following through properly, you're snapping your wrist, look at how the ball is going to kind of come off your hand, and you're not going to get the tight spiral that you're going to have when your finger is right up near the tip of the ball. Okay, so and again, that's difficult. The older the quarterback is, as you know, the more difficult it is to teach a quarterback to to change his grip around a little bit, right? So if you can, again, and for hours, I would lie down on my good drill is lie down on the floor in your house or outside, whatever, under a goalpost, and just flick the ball up, flick and try just to hit the ceiling with the tip of the ball, right? Just that works your touch, right? And making sure that you get that good grip and making sure you're getting a grip that you're comfortable with. The other thing, of course, is, again, we talked about not having any palm on the ball, right? You saw Tom Brady throwing on the iPad, right? Making sure. So that's, and again, most of you have heard this before, right? If you next time you have a football, grab a ball and just kind of take your hand, and if you've got lots of palm on the ball, take your hand and just kind of try to move your wrist around a little bit, because I talk about having different motors in your body, and your first motor that you have is your wrist. But to utilize your wrist properly, you have to make sure that you don't have any palm on the ball, because if you've got too much palm on the ball, then what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to cock your wrist. You're not going to be able to get that power. So right now I've got palm on the ball and I'm not able to kind of really torque my wrist at all, right? But now when I have no palm on the ball, I can slide my finger underneath there. Now see the rotation that I have and see how much I've got there when I'm into this situation right here, and I can kind of do this like this, right? So no palm on the ball, making sure that, again, you get good grip. And it's a couple of drills. Just have your quarterbacks stand like this, back and forth, okay? And kind of just basketball drills. Go around the horn if you can, okay? And getting used to just, again, fingertips on the ball, and making sure that your palm, again, doesn't touch the ball, right? So getting the quarterback used to that position, getting the quarterback used to being in a throwing position, right? Getting him, you want to be your setup, you want to be in a good throwing position, obviously, before you're going to have a successful pass. So just drill it into the quarterback. So over and over again, we just have our quarterbacks, especially our younger guys, from here, it's just right here, over and over again. Get that turn. Notice I'm not right here. I'm not here, right? I'm going to turn. Now, sometimes the ball, hey, it's okay if the ball is a little bit more straight up or straight out this way, okay? It's whatever happens with your quarterback. I talked to Travis Lulay at length about this type of thing, right? And I said, Travis, what, I noticed when I saw pictures of you throwing, the ball was kind of straight up like this. And he's like, and I've seen other pictures where he's kind of like this, right? So from this position here, again, quarterback, ball under your chin, and you're just in this position, you're getting the quarterback used to. Now, making sure that in this position right here, the elbow is you still got that bend in your elbow. So you don't want to, when you tell the quarterback to bring the ball back, you don't want to have him bring the ball back too far right here, right? We've all seen quarterbacks throwing the ball back here like this, right? So we want to still be in this position and making sure that we have a good L formation. And also, of course, in the grip, we backtrack a little bit, making sure that you have an L formation with your thumb and your index finger in that position right there. You don't want to have the thumb too close to the tip. You want to spread that out and making sure you're in that L, so you're in this position right here, right? Okay, so over and over again. Good reps, good reps, good reps, right? Now, one of the big common mistakes that I think a lot of young quarterbacks make is when they throw the ball, they lead with their hand. And I kind of call that like a dart throw, right? You're leading with your hand. You want your quarterback leading with your elbow, okay? Now we say to our quarterbacks that you've got a laser beam from your elbow to the receiver. Now, is your elbow going to be right at your receiver every time? No, and especially you watch Tom Brady throw, right? That elbow will be slightly outside, but it's a good aiming point for your young athletes to tell them to, hey, try to think of that elbow having that laser beam on it, and that is trying to get to your receiver. You've got a laser beam from there to your receiver. So from this position now, what we want to do is we just break it down even further, right? From here, we're going from here to here, from here to here, here to here, turn to right there. Okay, so now we've broken down the skill, and from this position, making sure again that he's in good position from here. We come down and we get in good position to right there. Okay, right in that position there. Okay, right in that position there. Now, a lot of you have seen probably the most recent drills that are out there that most every quarterback coach is doing now. Is just simply throwing a towel, right? If we have a towel with you and you want to be able to, you're throwing that towel. So I'm going to kind of stand up now and see if we can. Now, hopefully you guys can see me properly here. Because I've actually got a pair of shorts here that I'm using for this. So we want to get in position, and instead of towel, we've got some shorts here, and we are throwing. We're down in this position, and we are throwing, and we're throwing like a towel, right? We're not going to let go of that towel. Can you hear me all right, Brady? So we're going to throw that towel. But what we're trying to do now is, again, we're going to lead with that elbow, right? Lead with that elbow as opposed to the hand. So I kind of call that a chicken wing throw, right? When I got a quarterback that's doing this, notice what he's doing. He's leading with his hand, not leading with his elbow. If that's going to be a result, if you lead with your hand, guarantee you're going to get a sore arm, okay? So elbow first, right? Elbow first. And we'll put out different markers out there in 3 different spots across the field, right? We want to make sure that, again, your elbow is going to that target, right? Your elbow is going to that target. Elbow is going to that target, right? So we're throwing over here. Boom. And you've also heard we talk about different eyes, right? Your left foot, your right-footed, your right-handed, your left foot facing in the direction of the receiver. Is it going to be right on the receiver? Not necessarily. A lot of quarterback coaches now coach it to you to be just slightly inside the receiver, but you want to make sure that you do open and your left foot is facing the target. I'd say left foot, left knee, your hip. Okay, I talk about getting our elbows up a little bit. I know a lot of quarterback coaches coach their guys to have their elbows in tight like this a little bit, right? We like to kind of extend our elbows out a little bit, right? And get in good posture, okay? And again, something like this drill, they can do over and over again every night. They're just sitting there watching TV at night. They want to make sure that they are in position and they're throwing the ball, okay? So they will never do this and stop, okay? So get that good snap, okay? We also, when we're breaking down the throw, we'll talk a lot about throwing the ball and just getting that good snap. So from this position, we just take the ball and we just snap our wrist down and through. Making sure, again, your follow through in football, as most of you know, of course, you're snapping down, your thumb down, okay? Thumb down. It's not you're not slicing across this way. And that's what happens oftentimes with quarterbacks when they get outside like this. They get outside like this, and they end up, it's really hard to recover from here and get back across this way to finish properly, okay? We like to finish right around your pocket area here, not across your body. So we don't want to slash. I call that kind of a slashing throw where they slash across. So we want to throw, again, high release, snap your wrist, and bring your hand down. We actually have our guys down. So you've been down, when you're down on your left knee often, and you're throwing the ball, throw, and you want to finish, right? Throw, you want to finish, okay? So making sure, again, you get that good wrist snap, you're throwing through. But one thing that we're really emphasizing more and more of now is proper posture, is making sure. And I tell the kids, and hopefully we can do this for a few more years, we can certainly do it with Brady, but if you watch, and if everybody pictures Tom Brady throwing right now, you kind of see him, he almost kind of leans back a little bit this way, right? And what that does is that really emphasizes an over-the-top throw. So in the pocket, or just in your warm-ups right now, in your off-season drills, making sure that they have good posture, okay? Bum out, strong position, and you're straight up this way, right? And the other person I talked to them about, and you can visualize this yourself, what's the first thing you think of, or visualize Drew Brees right now? What do you see when you see Drew Brees? You see chin up, right? Drew Brees, Hall of Famer. How many seasons did he play for? And he's only really 6 foot, right? He's not a very tall quarterback. Look at Russell Wilson, those guys. Their posture is great. Their posture is solid. They're not kind of hunching over this way. So you see my back in this position right here. So again, bum is out, shoulders are back, Tom Brady lean, Drew Brees chin. Okay, so you're in this position right here. Now, the other thing we talk about, and if I had a quarterback here, it'd be easy to demonstrate, but we talk about having like a stick kind of through right here. And when you throw the ball now, you want to be throwing the ball and maintain that posture. So I could be able to maybe stand behind you. I stand behind sometimes the quarterback holding their head, okay, and making sure that when they throw, their head does not come down. There's a common mistake that a lot of quarterbacks make, right? They will dip their shoulder down this way. Of course, if they dip their shoulder down this way, ball's going to go on the ground, because the angle of your shoulders is going to dictate where the pass goes, okay, or the trajectory of the pass, the angle of your shoulders. But it all starts with your posture, okay, straight up. See how I'm kind of straight up and down? And those of you that do golf will know that, hey, it's very similar, right? Good posture, and you're not swaying, right? Football, you're not like a tree kind of swaying back and forth. Because think of it, when the way the body works, and we all know that, you know, so much of your power comes from your core, comes from this area right here, right? So when you throw the ball, you don't want to be throwing this way with your body going down this way. You want to be throwing the ball this way. So we also talk about shoulders back, chin up, and big chest. So watch your quarterbacks do this. I call this goalpost drill, where we'll just be in a goalpost formation and we're turning. But again, my head, I've got to pull through my head down through into the ground. So I'm not this way, but I'm this way. Okay? I'm this way. Now, when you do this with your quarterbacks, I guarantee you the first thing that they're going to do when you do goalpost drill with them is when you're like this, they're just going to stand here like this, and they're going to go like this. Okay? And what's the problem with that? They're only turning their shoulders, right? So we want to make sure, and this is not easy to do for any athletes, but if you get the young ones in there and they're athletic enough, okay, then you can train them early, right? Because we've all know that, again, in the last years, we saw Dak Prescott going down the field, doing this in the warm-up, right? And everybody kind of laughed at that, but we all know that that's, again, where you generate so much of your power when you throw. That's where you generate so much of your power when you golf swing, right? Those golfers like Rory McIlroy, Bubba Watson, those guys are not big guys, right? They're not big guys. So you want to make sure that, again, you are getting that power from here, okay? You're getting that power from here and making sure that you get that generate through this way, okay?
No, that's a great point, Coach. I think, keeping level shoulders is probably the most, as a quarterback coach myself, keeping level shoulders is probably the most important thing within a quarterback's arsenal.
And you're here now, and you're here, right? And you're this, like you're right now I'm level, right? I'm not dipping, right? I'm here, right? And, we talk about, but now, deep passes though, of course, and I always talk to the kids about, I say, who am I right now and what am I doing, right? Aaron Rodgers throwing his Hail Mary, right? So on your deeper passes, if you're saying, you know what, my kid's just not getting any trajectory on his deep fade, on those deep fades, right? Or even on a short fade, right? You want to complete 18, 20 yards down the field. We're not getting the trajectory on there. Hey, just take that left elbow, move it up, and I tell them, I say Aaron Rodgers, and they all know what I'm talking about, right? Aaron Rodgers here, and the angle of my shoulders now, like this, that's going to dictate a nice high pass that can come up and over, right? So again, back to the core though, you want making sure that here, but guys, it's here, but it's still big chest, shoulders back, bum out, okay? Making sure that posture is essential. So get those guys to do that goalpost drill, right? Where they're just in this position right here, right? RPOs, I just had down because I know I've got how many minutes, Braden?
You got about 9 minutes left, Coach.
Okay, so I'm going to try to move my screen a little bit here so you guys can see my feet and know what I'm talking about. So a couple of you might not see my face, which is maybe a good thing, right? So now I know, Braden, can you see my feet okay here?
I can see your feet perfectly, Coach.
Okay, good. So I know that a lot of what's our big thing these days? We're talking a lot about RPOs, right? So again, it's the feet, you guys. We have to focus on the athlete's feet to make the proper throw. Okay, so if I'm RPOing, so for instance, again, my team, we're going this way. Okay, I'm going to fake our zone across here, and I'm just looking at my inside receiver. My inside receiver, say my slot back to my left-hand side, and what's he running? Like a little slant, little hot route, right? Because what are we doing here? We're reading the outside linebacker. We're probably reading the will linebacker on some of our RPOs, right? So that will linebacker blitzes. Obviously, I want to get that ball out and throw the ball quickly to that slot back in that void area. But what a lot of quarterbacks do is they waste their feet and their footwork is off and they end up throwing the ball too late because they take too many steps. So we simplified it. And if I had a chance to show you on my iPad, I actually videotaped one of the CFL games a couple of years from Cody Fitzgerald, just running regular zone read and RPO'd it, right? So we're big on right-handed quarterback, right foot slightly forward, left toe even with the instep. Okay, that's how I coach our guys. I know in the NFL, Russell Wilson changed it up. He goes left foot forward, right? But again, talking about your feet and the story that I always tell, and actually the play that I always show is, of course, the Seahawks a few years ago down at the goal line, right? What happened down at the goal line? They didn't run the ball, right? Obviously, right? We all know that. But Russell Wilson threw probably the worst pass of his career. He threw an interception on the goal line against New England, right? Picked off, and they lost the ball game. Biggest game in the world. And Russell Wilson threw an interception because his feet were so off. I've got about 4 or 5 different fundamental things that he did wrong, mostly with his feet, and that resulted in the interception. Anyways, RPO, we go right foot forward, left foot slightly back. Again, your program, you might do something a little bit different, right? Now, here's a big, we're going to get zone across. So we're just faking, we're faking zone. But where are our eyes? That's the other thing. Again, we talked a little bit about training the quarterback's eyes, making sure that he's looking downfield. So I'm checking out, where's that Will linebacker right now, right? But now we get the snap from center out of gun. We're going to give a little ride fake. Now, here's one common mistake that quarterbacks make. They stick the ball in too far, right? What do running backs do? They want that ball, they don't know if they're going to get it or not. Okay, but one thing actually Jacques Chapdelaine taught me a little bit was to use that left forearm a little bit and press that against that hip of that running back coming across. But the key thing here are your feet. So all I'm going to do is I take the snap, I'm going to ride fake to that back, but watch my feet now. It's just a ride fake, and a step and a throw. I know that sounds kind of obvious and it sounds kind of simple, but I see so many guys RPOing like this. They're riding, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps, and then they throw them. By that time, the slot back is what? Into safety country, right? It's too late. So minimize your steps. You have to make that decision a little faster, certainly if you're not going to be able to ride step, but it's just ride. So a short step. Your right foot, you're right-handed. So the right foot is the power foot, right? Ride and step. Ride, step, roll. Simple, right? So you're really just 1, 2, throwing off your RPO, okay? Again, you don't have as much time, but you'll know if that linebacker's coming or not. If I'm going the other way, so I'm going to hit my slot back on the right-hand side now, my slot back on the right-hand side. I want to be looking at that linebacker on that side. So it's a step, it's a snap, it's a step, one step, but now I'm leading with my left foot. So I have an extra step when I do this. So I'm going to go step, step, step. Okay, so it's actually a 3-step progression, right? So my eyes are still up. I'm reading that outside linebacker. I'm getting the snap. It's step, but guys, it doesn't have to be a huge step here. Quick step, turn, and throw. Okay, and work that to death, because that's not necessarily an easy skill to do. But where's the power foot? Your power foot is your right foot. That's the foot. So you don't want to be throwing like this. Okay, you want to be here. Step, ride step, short step, and throw. Okay, and so that's kind of what we teach our guys with our RPOs is minimize those steps. Make sure your feet are set. Make sure your feet are in good position. Okay. We also on a 3-step drop or a quick drop. Obviously, you want to match your drop with the depth of the receiver's routes. Okay. So here's what I find though, is even at our academy the other day, kids making a great read, doing a great job, but our receivers are running 5-yard curls, and he's taking a 3-step drop. So every one of his passes came in a little bit late, even though he was making his read. I was like, hey, Johnson, what's up? Why are your throws are late? Why are they late? I'm not sure, coach. Well, they're running 5-yard curls, and you're running 3-step drop. So you're not matching up, right? So here I think is such a common mistake that quarterbacks make out of shotgun. You are already 5 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 5.5 yards deep. You don't need a whole ton of depth on your quick game drops. So for our quarterbacks, if I know I'm throwing to my left-hand side, I'm just going to take the ball, and all I'm going to do is take my right toe, replace my left heel with my right toe. Step, and throw. Okay? Guys, it don't have, here's one common mistake, and this is what Russell Wilson actually did this in the Super Bowl. He went left, big right foot step, and now what's happening? He's off balance. He didn't have, the throw was late, and he didn't have any juice on the throw because he was so far back on his right foot. So if you're taking a quick drop, guys, it's just step throw. Like, look at how simple that is, right? You don't need a big first step here, okay? It's step and throw. Step and throw, okay? I like to it's not quite a bucket. I know some guys are teaching a little bit of a bucket step there. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I just find that if you bucket too much and you're trying to throw a slant, sometimes that makes it a little more difficult, okay? So if I'm throwing to my right, again, last point here. Dig in that left toe. Dig in that left toe. Because here's a common mistake. Quarterbacks will go like this, down set hut, and they'll take a full step. They'll go step, step, throw. Okay? So dig in that foot, because if you dig in that foot and 80% of your weight is on that toe, then you won't take a false step. So you're here, and I'm throwing to my right-hand side. It's just from here, it's just snap, step, throw, like almost replace your foot. You don't need a big step. Step and throw. Okay? Step and throw. So
that's a great point, Coach. You know, I think I've always taught seeing through your eyes, your three eyes being your left foot, your left knee, and your left shoulder, and coming through and keeping everything level. You know, these things, you know, have proven time and time again to make yourself an effective quarterback and an accurate quarterback. So many great points. I really appreciate it. And you jumping on with us today. Unbelievable job. I think, you know, being a quarterback coach myself, you know, I could probably spend, you know, 8 hours talking on this stuff. You know, and Jackson would pull me off the screen here, but you know, unbelievable. Coaches, you know, I hope we can have you back on again and talk more, because there's so many, you know, great details that we can get into. But unbelievable job. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. Just to piggyback off that, I was trying to do, it's great. And this is where having me and Braden is huge for us, because I can try and get some stuff on social media out there. And well, he's running the clinic, but just listening to it as you guys were going, and we've had a lot of, you know, we've had a ton of people watching this. It's been great. You know, the detail there, like I often find, because it is such a big topic, like Braden says, you know, like every individual kid is different. Every offense is different, you know, and you covered so many, I think, pillars of the position, and especially in the Canadian game being shotgun so much. You know, me and Braden coached the same summer league team and worked together on an offense 2 years ago. Now it's been forever since we've been able to do this. But, you know, and so many of those things you talked about, like making sure that your drop, okay, maybe you heard about this as a 3-step drop concept. Well, if that's under center, that's not totally different if it's in the gun. Yeah. You know, and the RPO stuff, I think it's amazing. It's easy for me as an O-line guy to go, yeah, just read it and throw the guy the ball. If the will does this, it's such a different, it's like saying, yeah, you just walk up to the golf ball and you swing and you hit it straight.
Right.
It's the detail there was awesome. And you know, getting the firsthand example is amazing. So yeah, thanks a lot, Coach. And guys, if you have any questions, you know, Coach Prepchuck's really easy to find on social media, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter. That's how we got connected, and he's a big supporter of our stuff. So if you follow his pages, and, you know, certainly we're based out of Ontario, but if there's anybody, you know, on the West Coast, you know, this probably isn't, you know, you probably already know Coach Prepchuck's camps, but, you know, if you're looking for some development opportunities this summer, make sure you look him up, because I know there's a lot of good work being done there.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you guys are out in Vancouver, come out to my camps, or anytime I'm anywhere in Canada and I run one of my camps, and you guys hear about my camp, come out, watch, help out, and it'd be great to have you. I really appreciate you guys having me on today. Thank you so much, and let's stay in touch, okay?
Yeah, sounds good. Absolutely, Coach.
Absolutely. Sure. Coach.
I'm going to let Coach Maggiacomo in now. We're going to keep rolling kind of like we did with the first switch, because then, you know, people can just stay on the same feed here, which is great. And Coach Maggiacomo is going to get us set up. They're set up for a presentation on developing linebackers. There we go. Awesome. Good to see you, Coach. Also coming out of the gym. Our last guest had the bench press in the back too. I don't know whether I'm coming out of the kitchen. That's why I had to throw the fake background on there. But really excited to talk linebackers and we kind of did X's and O's in the first two clinics. Did you play with Brad Smart? Was he around when you were at Laurier? He did a great talk on coverages for us earlier today. I wasn't sure if he was a contemporary of yours or not.
Yeah, sorry. Am I in now? Am I cutting out, or is it okay?
No, you're good. You've been a little in and out, but I think you're good now.
I just switched Wi-Fi networks.
Gotcha.
Just while you were talking. Yeah, I played with Brad for 3 years, I think. We overlapped quite a bit.
Yeah, no, he did a great one on
Awesome.
On Trilock, which is awesome. So I've seen some of this presentation, Coach, so I want to let you get going. But for you guys who don't know, Coach Maggiacomo is the defensive coordinator at Hespeler High School here locally with us in Cambridge and in the Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge area. And for anyone who's followed high school football in Ontario, one of the most successful programs in the last decade, certainly as long as I've been in Kitchener-Waterloo. The Hespeler Hawks have been really, really successful. And he did this presentation for some of my linebackers with the Cambridge Lions, and the guys loved it. So really excited, hear more about how you develop linebackers. I know that's the, position that you played and near and dear to your heart as a DC. So you should be able to share your screen. Let me just make sure. Yep, it's set up. So Coach,
Hit that button at the bottom.
Yep, you should be able to just share your screen there. If it doesn't work, let me know. I'll get it figured out. But just some housekeeping stuff, guys. I see there's a lot of new people who just joined right now. Make sure you like the video if you haven't already. It just helps more coaches find it. So even if you tune in for 5 minutes and you got to go walk the dog or whatever, throw a like on the video. It helps us out a ton. It'll help coaches find it now and even after we post it when we're done. And also, if you can help us out, subscribe. It's free. We're a free resource for Canadian football coaches and athletes. And we are doing more on the athlete-centered side. Starting, really, we started that last Tuesday for helping more, people who want to continue to develop as players, especially right now with COVID. It's tough. So if you haven't subscribed already, help us out. It's free and it helps us get, a little closer to our goal of getting to 1,000. So. Coach, the art of linebacker play, I'll turn it over to you. Just really excited for our guests to hear this, and thanks for making the time to be with us tonight.
No problem. First, thanks, Jax, for putting this on. It's pretty awesome to be able to do stuff like this still while we're all kind of in limbo. And given what's going on this past weekend with Ontario, it's been a bit of a bummer. So stuff like this is always fun to be a part of. So my presentation, the title, I know it sounds a little cheesy or can sound cheesy, but sometimes with kids, cheese is good. Like we called ourselves STUDBACKERS when I was at Laurier as a player, and as a 20-year-old or as a 24-year-old, we loved it. And I really enjoy it because, especially now, like I have a bunch of inside linebackers here in the picture, or the old like stand-up linebackers, not pass rushers, and linebacker is kind of a weird position right now in football, right? You hear a lot about defensive ends. You hear a lot about three techs now because of Aaron Donald. Lots of safety play conversation. Always you hear about corners and shutdown corners. And then the linebacker position defensively always gets forgotten. But then you look at the guys here, these four guys, right? Every one of them's got the C on their chest. And they've kind of run the ship. So I think I love calling ourselves STUDBACKERS as a linebacker positional group, first and foremost. It gives the kids a sense of pride. It gives the kids a sense of ownership, and something to attach to the position. Because sometimes, honestly, like when you got to take on blocks all the time, so somebody else makes the tackle, that's not fun. All right, you got to go slug it on special teams for a little while. That's not fun. So make the kids get excited about the position. So I start with the nickname first and foremost, and I will continue to do this until I come up with a better one, or I've aged myself out of relevance as a coach, but hopefully it doesn't happen for a while. So what we're going to go over, I got my list here. The things in yellow, or well, I'm going to try and touch on, and then there's a couple extra points. This presentation, as probably most coaches tend to do, you always put too much in. So this presentation, I'm sure Jack's will be able to share it with everybody or make it available. It goes on a couple other things. So first and foremost, what it means to become a stud backer. And then I'll talk about athletic development or developing athleticism at the position and what things I value, at least as a coach, and what I've seen as a player, what seems to separate pretty good linebackers to awesome ones. Next is tackling. Even though football has changed quite a bit, there's so much value in tackling proper. And because we don't hit as much at the high school level, even they don't hit as much at the college or university level or the pros, tackling can be a lost art. Okay. And we take for granted, and I always have this conversation with our coaches at school, that we're kind of blessed that a lot of our kids have played in the Lions program. So we always say we don't need to give them too many reps, or the conversation is we don't need to give them too much. They get a lot of practice, but that's for our best players. The reality is the kids who don't play Lions football or don't play anywhere else, don't play rep, those kids need it the most. So to just assume that the kids have learned it, or like to do some basics and kind of brush over it, I think is a disservice to the linebacker position, as well as any defensive player, to be honest. And that includes DBs. And I think DBs could go a long way to improving their game with a little bit of tackling every day. That's from a defensive coordinator perspective, not from a linebackers coach. Next, run fits. And this is where I want to spend most of the time on. I think this is the most vital part to linebacker play these days, is actually identifying how the gaps get manipulated and how to rep that, so that the kids, when they see it on game day, they're comfortable. And especially with high school, if we're talking from the high school level, offenses week to week can be so different. And your own offense might be like, I know there's lots of offenses in Ontario still run some kind of triple option or some kind of variation of that. That's not a tradition that's not inside zone. That's not outside zone necessarily. That's not power or split zone or counter trade or all those different looks and all those variations off those runs. So how to teach that in your kids without just assuming they're going to develop that because of your O versus D sessions of practice is pretty important to me. And then pass drops, and the next three here are things I'm going to touch on, but we'll see what timing's like. So pass drops and how to teach zone awareness. And that's really what I think is essential for linebackers, because at the end of the day, I could go over all these different techniques about how to teach man coverage, but I'm not a DB coach. And I'm not here to talk how to coach up DB play. Linebacker man-to-man is kind of just go chase, a lot of the time, I should say, is go chase the running back out of the backfield. Now, there are some nuances with that, but if you're talking about a Sam linebacker or your dime backer kind of position, honestly, he should be practicing with the DBs 60% of the time anyways. If you're in a pass-heavy league or you're going to pass-heavy opponents, that week of prep should be that linebacker now plays like a DB. So we'll talk about it, but it is mainly zone stuff. It is zone drops. And then developing your weaknesses. This is one thing I wanted to talk with Jackson's players is, and I think it can go well for coaches too, is work on the things the kids aren't good at. So I know I say tackling is super important for linebackers, and if they're good tacklers, that's awesome. You still do your tackle practice, but if you have an area that your kids, like if you guys can't handle taking on blocks, and I know it's hard to simulate that in practice without just having them smash each other, find ways to dive into that. So that's what that would be about. And the last thing is developing the craft, just the nuances overall. Okay, so what it takes to become a stud backer. These are my 5 key points. So the thing most importantly is they're the hardest workers on the field. Okay, and I think as coaches, for what I've seen from my coaching experience, from clinics, from YouTubing different clips, and from my playing experience and this will help me because I wasn't that athletic. You can teach a kid how to hustle. Okay. You can't teach them to be the best hustler, but you can develop that as a skill, and that's teaching pursuit here. So these are two different links. One is that you guys can check this one out. It's pretty fun. It's Ray Lewis and Ed Reed breaking down how they study film. And I showed this when I spoke to the linebacker kids. I thought it was really valuable for them to see guys at that level talking about film study. But for us, that's something as coaches we can click on, and you guys already know that kind of. But the teaching pursuit, I think as coaches, we're not helping our kids if we just say hustle to the ball and blow the whistle, stop the drill, and go back and get ready for the next play. Okay, this has to be part of Indy. At some point every week, there has to be 10 minutes, 15 minutes. There's a million different things you can do. They're all variations. So I'm going to try and get to this link. Hopefully it doesn't screw things up too much. Jax, can you still see this? The YouTube link, the channel?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to share with my sharing. Okay, so this is LSU. Okay, and this is just their pursuit drill. So it's just the nice part about this, in the second rep, you get a better view of it. The nice part about it though, is if you guys are doing your just team teach session, so you're running through plays and coverages, and you got they have 11, but all 12 guys out there. Okay, you can run a stunt. You can go through your new blitz package that week or a D-line stunt, and then it can carry over into pursuit. So then you're kind of piggybacking on one drill and developing two skills at the same time. And I think time is so valuable, especially high school practices, when you don't know if every kid's showing up that day, or you're out of there in like 75 minutes. If you can get an hour and a half to an hour, almost 2 hour practice, and that's kind of gravy. I know that's hard for some people with kids' work schedules and everything. So the more you can combine and join drills to teach multiple skills, I think is really valuable. So here you go. There's running a defense, and then the coach just throws the ball up, and you see every guy has to hustle, and then they all have to be part of the turnover. And even if they're not, and I'm going to go back here for 2 seconds. Sorry, I lied. 4 more seconds. So this is the part that I like the most, is right here. D-line gets their hands up. All the low zone players are all balls in the air, turn and run. Okay. Now you see all those hats. They're all moving to the ball, ensuring the play. Okay. So they've executed whatever their initial defense was. It looked like they were in some kind of too high safety look. So say it was just a cover 2 zone variation, but now they're all busting their butt. Okay. And the guy secures the catch. Now they turn, and now they're still part of the play. Okay. And these are the things about that effort that it drives us nuts as coaches when we see kids, as soon as the ball's in the air, they all just shut her down. And then they worry about the next rep, or they're just shooting the breeze with the receiver that they're against and say, that's good enough. Well, it's not. Okay. And as coaches, I think we owe it to the kids, and it's not always their fault. Like they're 14 to 18. They don't know any better. The 1 or 2 kids who are already on their way to university or are getting some kind of scholarship in Ontario or getting looks down south, yeah, they're going to do those little things. But we need all 12 kids on the field to work hard. Okay. And we need the kids who aren't going to university. If you want to be successful defensively, you need that field corner who you just thrown in, you've taken over from offense. He's doing double duty or something like that. You need that kid to still play hard for you, because he's going to have to do 1 or 2 things at some point, especially in an important game. So pursuit drills are essential, and that develops the hardest working player on the field. And I wholeheartedly believe in that. I lose my mind at practice when our guys don't bust it, and we put in punishments and things like that. I do believe this part, number 2, the most balanced position in the game. Okay. And I just spent talking about zone drops, but we think of linebackers as run stoppers. So it has everything, right? You got to do some man coverage, got to blitz. So you have to have some pass rush skills, got to be able to take on an O-lineman, got to be able to take on a fullback, got to be able to make a tackle on a tailback in space, got to be able to receiver in space. So they do a little bit offensively, and then they go play special teams too. So they got to block. So they kind of take on everything. And that's where the Studbacker name came from, is that we always joke that we're the best athletes on the field. Now it's debatable by pure athleticism, but I'll take that mantle still because of all the things that are asked of us, which is unique to the linebacker position. Number 3 here, and I'll go over this more in tackling. You want to be a hitter. You want to teach hitters, not tacklers. So what I mean by that is emphasize. I don't care if we got 12-year-olds, emphasize technique first, and then you can teach the variations of how to do the gator roll leg tackles when you put the shoulders in the thighs. But just because you got a corner, okay, or a small linebacker, your Sam backer tackling a fullback, don't just teach him. Don't let them be satisfied with only diving at ankles. Okay, you want to be a hitter. You want to put your shoulder into that guy's chest, drive your feet, okay, and then see where the chips fall. I'm going to try and get my screen. There we go. Sorry. So that's a big part of developing them is really teaching tackling well and teaching how to stay on your feet when you tackle and not just dive. Okay, and running the feet. We're going to talk about that in our tackling slides. Yes, coach, or this is more for the players, but you want the kids who are going to listen to you and do what you ask all the time and take your feedback. Okay, so if you're doing these nuances here with pursuit and different styles of tackling, you want the kid that's going to listen to you and buy into them. Sometimes if you can make a trade with your offensive coach for a kid who's a bit of a, to get a lesser athletic kid who's going to work hard, if you need him just to play Mike linebacker and maybe just plug an A gap or plug the one tech, that's okay too. Throw that kid in there. And then lastly, the smartest player on the defense, and I'm going to talk about this. Actually, I'll do that right now. And this comes into recognition. So, and this is where it comes to us as coaches. Draw up scout cards. Okay, I can't emphasize this enough, especially for your linebackers, because they're the only ones involved in the pass game and the run game equally, unlike D-line or DB. So this is just kind of my collection here. This is I'm more at the school hard drive, but have every opponent and just incorporate that into your pre-practice stuff. Sorry, let me get this full screen again. Incorporate that into your pre-practice where you're running scout cards, okay? And you're running, and we'll get into that with the run fits too. But between run fits, that's going to make your guys, that's going to help your gap responsibilities and your gap assignments. And then that's going to give your guys ownership into kind of being able to communicate for you on the field. But the more you can rep, and even if you don't actually know what your opponent's going to do, and that's okay, and I've done this lots of times, sometimes I'll just take a booklet of sample plays, okay? Because we play teams that in our league, sometimes they honestly run fullback dive still, or they just run ISO blocking schemes and things like that. That's pretty straightforward. We'll still run power. We'll still rep counter trade so that we're getting the skills. And the biggest thing is I want my linebackers to understand how to read their cues. So even if you're only getting one style of run from your opponent, the more you can work on just identifying their cues, the sharper they'll be and the quicker they will be to react to the play and to hit their gaps. Okay, so basics. So just some pretty generic stuff about linebacker stance. Honestly, I don't get too hung up on this other than the alignment component. But as far as the stance goes, as long as your kid's comfortable, okay, and their feet are balanced so they can react either way, that works, okay? Ray Lewis, some of the kids honestly aren't athletic enough to be able to sit their hips as low as an NFL middle linebacker does. So they have to have they're a little more extended in the knees, and you can't win it all at high school level. Just have them square, a little bit of weight forward, and then other than that, eyes are up. Okay, hands, they can rest their hands. The old school way of having to have their hands in front of them because it's lazy, it doesn't matter. Like this guy's one of the best to ever do it. He's got his hands on his knees. It's not that big of a deal. Alignment, 5 yards that's critical. I can be a little like opinionated on it can be this, can be that way. You feel like, but I think 5 yards is pretty sound. Okay, any closer and the kids don't have an opportunity to react. Sorry, I got a sensitive touch pad. They don't have the opportunity to react quick enough to alignment. So the closer they get to the line, all right, the harder it's going to be to respond to a pulling alignment. So 5 yards gives them the space, and then they can actually play with speed and come downhill. Make sure they get lined up. And this is where the cards again come in, because every single time you run a play, you can start with alignment and making sure they're where they need to be. And then the last one, sorry, I gotta move. And then anything else is, as they say there, from alignment, should reflect your defensive call. Okay, and that's where it's on you guys, what your preferences are, what your kids are doing. Maybe you'd like to stack your guys because you know you have an athletic kid. That works too. So you can stack a linebacker behind a D tackle, and maybe you guys just play a true I replace you. So you let the D tackle just do what he can do. And so you're playing a zone team, and this works. This can work. So say you're playing a heavy zone team, and you don't have the fast D lineman, and you're getting so pissed that he's always losing his gap. So then you just stack your linebacker behind him and just say, you know what? We're not going to blitz you much. You're going to play the zone anyways. Whatever gap he goes to, you go to the opposite. So now you don't have two guys in one gap. Yeah, your D lineman's not great, but it's a way as a coach to put your kids in a better position. And so if you have an athlete, actually, honestly, I think most linebackers can't handle that. You just need the reps. And that's, again, back to the scout cards and the run fits come into play. So, sorry, I'm frozen here on my end. There we go. Agility work. So some basic stuff. All of these are links. So step over bags, 4-cone agility, ladder drills, general cone drills. The two things here. And this is one thing I learned. I've spent, I'd say, more than a cup of coffee. Maybe like a week's worth of coffees in the CFL. I had 2 seasons, so that's good enough for me. But we did all of our agility drills were like 15 yards. In the first couple days of doing Indy, I was like, holy crap, there's a long drop all the time. Because I was so used to 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards. But playing on the bigger field, and obviously in true 3 down in the CFL system, where it was always five receiver sets and it was just one tailback, linebackers got to cover a lot of space. So we did big boxes in our zone drops. And I think that, and I've started to take that into practice with my guys at the high school level, because like kids at the high school level are athletic enough. They can do that. They can handle that. And to say that they're not ready, all we're doing is putting them further behind the 8 ball. So you stick your 230-pound middle linebacker, who is just that A-gap plugger, and you make him friggin' flip his hips and drop 15 yards before he changes direction. Okay, and if you do that on day 1, on the Tuesday after Labor Day, that's when you guys, so that's Waterloo region, we don't get to practice in the summer. So that's always our day 1. I know a lot of you guys get your week before to get some training camp in. So if you get your training camp, you start day 1 by November, and by the time officer rolls around, you'll got linebackers who can flip their hips and they can go run under a 12, 15 yard curl by the W. Okay. And that's all because things like this. So wider drills, bigger space to move. Okay. Don't just accept the fact that your kid's unathletic. Again, you have to coach them to what they're good at and to allow them to be successful. But from an Indy perspective, it's individual skill training. Okay. So we want to build the skills to play the position. We can't control how athletic they are. We can only control, or we can control the skills that we are building in them. Okay, so especially, and that comes to my last page, or the second last page, about developing the weaknesses. This is a good example of that. W drill, that's just however you guys, if you go straight back and angle forward, again, mostly it's been done at 5 yards, go 10 yards even. And just really, really force that into your kids about linebackers are athletes. Okay, and you work those skills too. And the next part here, change of pace. Okay, and this will play into when we go into our run fits and go into inside outside zone. We're going to get into that in the next part. And the last here, I just have asterisk. Notice at the end of all these drills, this goes back what I was talking to you off the top.
Not sure, we might have lost you there for a sec, Coach Maggiacomo. The wonders here of Wi-Fi here. So coach, I'm sure will be back with us in a sec. Just give him a second here. Like he said, he sent me this presentation. So if you're interested in, getting this presentation, hit us up on social media, or if Coach has emailed me before, my email's out there as well. Coach Jay Yankus, YANCHUS, at gmail.com. You can find us there. I know Coach will hop back on here. I'm sure he just dropped his internet. The fact that we've gotten 5 or 4 clinics in here, and this is the first internet drop we've had, is not bad. So I'll cover for him for a minute here. A couple of bits of housekeeping. Like I've said before, it helps other coaches find our content. The more likes it has, the more YouTube will suggest it to other coaches. Maybe some of you found the content that way. Just popped up in your YouTube one day. So if you're watching, then you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to us as well. It'll help us out huge. Matt, Coach just messaged me there. We'll get him back on here in a sec. But if you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps us out huge. Here, I'll just reply to Coach. Oh, there we go.
Hey, Jackson, I just got totally kicked out of everything.
Hey, no, it's all good. I promise I didn't kick you out. At least I don't think I did.
Okay, sorry about that, guys.
Hey, no worries. It gave me a second to get my ad read in there, reminding people to subscribe. So,
Perfect. There you go.
It all works.
Helping business.
That's my, yeah, there you go.
Okay, so I can share again?
Coach Walsh, yeah, this will be this. So all of these clinics, there was a couple questions in there just about where you can find these clinics on our site. Once they're done, they take a little while to upload. But we're recording them as well. So we'll edit out that little bit there, and we'll trim it up and stuff. So you will be able to find these again. And I was just saying to the people watching, if you're interested in the presentation, I have it. And coach has said we can get out to anyone who's interested.
Yeah, share it. And then you have my email, right, Jax, to post
to
everybody? Yeah, perfect. Send emails. Are we good to go?
Yeah, if your share's working there, you're
I'm
great.
back on, yeah.
Thanks for sliding back on there. Perfect. And there's a couple good questions in here, Coach. So if we get to like 25 minutes after or so,
yeah, I'll shut it down.
And because there's a couple good questions for you in here as well.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thanks for sticking with us there, guys.
Yeah, sorry about that, fellas. This is my I'm test driving you guys because I got to be teaching for online here for my phys ed classes in my garage. So this is a good dry run. Okay, so there's agility. So the last part, change of pace. What would I do here with my guys? Okay, and I got this one out of Montreal. This is probably, of all the things I got taught, I felt like in the pros, they kind of, you just review a lot of stuff. Like it's not a lot of indie work, but we got this drill and I thought it was amazing. Okay, I was so impressed with it right away. And I've been using it ever since. So I've been using it for over 10 years now. So it's change of pace mirror. So it's what happens is you got your linebacker here and a ball carrier. And we started about 15 yards. So this is the final variation. The first variation is you can just do it if you don't have 2 players. If you literally have 1 kid at practice, okay, which I've had before in my position group, every 5 yards, you go side shuffle, then they get the 5 yard at that cone, then they turn their hips and do a bit of a crossover run, emphasizing keeping their shoulders square. And then they go 5 yards again, they gear down back to a side shuffle, and then that's 5, 5, 5, you got 15 yards. So again, back to my point in agility about a big gap, a big window. It's a 15-yard agility session, and you rep the crap out of it. and they're changing speeds. And this really is really important for when you play zone teams and you ask your linebacker to mirror the pace of the running back. Okay. And I know we all do it, but are we teaching the skills of it? Okay. And this is the one, I love this drill. And like I said, I rep the crap out of it. I have, this is what, 4 years ago, it was Devin Keeling who played, I think, a year at Mac, and then he shut down football. And then Mario Pineda, who's been at Laurier now, he's going to his fourth year, and he went there as he's kind of recruited, but not really. Jack, I think you can attest to that. He was a late add to the recruiting class, and he was a day one dress roster guy because he had pretty good fundamental skills. Okay, and he took to the coaching well. So I said the variations are, the first progression is 5-5-5. Just do it on air. Then you just have them. You don't even give the kids the 5-yard windows. The running back just has 20 yards, and you say you just change your speed, and this guy starts a half step behind because we always want to be on the back hip of the ball carrier for cutback purposes, and then he just mirrors his pace. So I'll show you this here. This one plays in the slide, which is nice. So he just changes up, and then fit up at the end. Again, now we're working some tackling within an agility drill. A couple of coaching points here. I'll talk about this in tackling. I don't teach head across the body anymore for tackling, and I'll go into that in a little more detail. But this was 2015, I think, or 2014 maybe. So no, sorry, excuse me, 2017. But either way, I teach hit on the inside and hit with the shoulder and really emphasize the driving the feet. But this drill, okay, and if we go back, Devin does a pretty good job. Okay, now this was after a year of me coaching this. This is me, I was getting film, putting it together for a presentation I did back then. So I just threw these guys with helmets and shoulder pads in a gym. Some of my reps will be like that. So shuffle, change speed. The real focus, and I have here, so keys, linebacker stays on the back hip, linebacker changes pace with the running back, and then optional, if you feel comfortable, if they have pads on, whatever, add tackling at the end of the run. That's totally your choice. But I think it's a good way to just sneak a little extra tackling in. And then some things to look at. The shoulders remain relatively calm. And this was my big coaching point that I had to individually get corrected as a player, was as you change speed, and Devin's not a great athlete, but he's not bouncing up and down. So I'm going to go back here. He's hopping a bit, but his shoulders, he's a little tall, but his shoulders stay relatively level. Okay. The more you can get your guys to, as they move laterally, they're not going up and down like basketball players so much, but they're just sliding totally laterally and their shoulders are level. Okay. The more athletic they will be and the quicker that they can transition. So if you do this drill and then your emphasis coaching point is, are they flipping their hips and reacting well? And then what's their pad level like? And are they bouncing? Those are the big keys to look for me. So change of pace, mirror drill. I haven't found a better name. And if you look up mirror drill, you won't find this one. I was looking for cooler YouTube clips. It's always nice to show American colleges doing stuff. But I do like this drill. Okay, so tackling. So this goes into the being a hitter now. So this is the meat and potatoes of stuff. Being a hitter, not a tackler. So you want to bring the power. You want to bring it to the tackle. You don't want to just take it on. Okay, and I can remember from a player sometimes, as soon as you're told you had a big guy here, hope on, that's BS. Okay, go through. You got players. You're coaching football. It's an aggressive sport. Go throw your body to that guy. Okay, and if you bounce off him, then we'll change things up. But chances are you'll get a piece as long as the technique is good. So some coaches, this goes to my head across the body, have different philosophies. I am coaching, and I do every year. We rep this quite a bit. I don't put the head across the body, and here's why. I find the number one reason kids miss tackles is they have dead feet on contact. Putting your head across the body, that's an old way of thinking in the sense that all you're doing is really telling the kids, get across the body. If that's their focus, then their feet aren't going. If your focus is feet, drive your feet, your head doesn't matter. It's just your head. Your body is not the thing that's going to win the tackle. it's your feet, it's your legs. Your hands just hold on. All the power is in the legs. So it doesn't really matter with that thought process. Head position. Now if you guys disagree, that's fine. This is just where I'm at. Head position doesn't matter now, because if the head is inside or outside the body, if my feet are moving, and I'm strong and fast, I'm going to win. It doesn't matter. The other part doesn't make a difference. And I mean, the Seahawks were lighting guys up in the early 2010s with that style. So 4 major styles we're going to go through here. Close contact, head on. So that's just meeting a player in the hole. Profile tackle, that's an angle tackle. Open field, I call shimmy tackle. And that's just how they adjust their feet as they approach a player in the open field. And then the Hawks roll tackle. Okay, and I've used the term, I've heard it before, the gator roll. That's when you have to take a guy down at the thighs. And there is a time and place for that for sure. And we do, as coaches, have to coach all of these variations because they're all different. So I'll go into the descriptions first, and then we'll come back. These are all hyperlinks. We'll come back to the videos. So close contact, head on. First, these are just my basic cues and what to look for and what to coach up. Head to the ball side. Okay, what I mean by that is if you're going to meet the player in the hole, okay, I always teach my guys, and this becomes more important in the open field when they have the ball carries more space, shade the ball, because the running back doesn't want to expose the ball to you. His job is to protect the ball. So he wants his off arm free. Okay, he wants to be able to stiff arm you or wing you with his shoulder. Okay, most ball carriers don't turn into the defender with the ball. They turn with the opposite shoulder. So if you shade to the ball, if the focus is to always hit at the football, sorry about that. Something just fell off my garage. That's okay. But if you shade to the football, you're allowing your defender to be more aggressive, which is going to make him a better hitter. And now you're making the ball carrier hesitate, even at half second. Sometimes that's all we need defensively. Next, shoot the hands. Okay, so that's coming through. These are now, you guys have heard these probably 100 times. Grab high cloth. And so the shoot the hands, grab high cloth, I work together. And what I do is I do kids, they're still chest to chest, facing up. One guy standing tall as an offensive player, arms out. Defender, head is into his chest. Okay, and then his hands are at his hips, and I say, ready, go. And then they just shoot the hands up, grab the back of the shoulders, okay, and grab high cloth. I've removed the word wrap up from my terminology, okay, my vocabulary as a defensive coach. And the reason for it is wrap up means this. I think of elbows out, hands coming together. Well, if you have elbows out, you can't shoot the hands, okay, and you can't grab high cloth. Okay, typically when you go like this, head drops. Okay, so if you shoot the hands, it's another little cue to help keep the kids have their heads up, neck bold, okay, and chin up. And then we get to sky the eyes, which is coming here. Roll the hips. That's coming from hips bent. Okay, we got our 45-degree angle in our hips to standing nice and tall. Essentially, you're asking the kids to perform a power clean to make a tackle. And that, I'm a power fit teacher as well. Okay, that's a big cue for my guys who don't, especially coming in grade 11, because junior football tackling sometimes it's a whole world that you don't know who your junior coach is. And luckily we have good junior coaches, and I know some of you guys here probably are junior coaches. And if you're in this, that means you're good because you're learning. But some junior coaches aren't like that. And sometimes we devalue junior football to a discredit to the kids. So we don't get, their tackling sometimes isn't great. They just dive. So roll the hips. I say do a power clean because they've all taken power fit by grade 11. And then they know that idea of extending the hips and being tall on contact that way. Then eyes to the sky. Okay, and if the head's to the ball side, now I'm not doing it because I'm trying to really focus on not having head-to-head contact. So that's the other part, head to the ball side now, is I'm not saying head on and I'm taking away the forehead into someone's face. Okay, so head to the side and then eyes to the sky. Now I'm here. And then as I roll my hips and shoot the hands, okay, I've now leveraged a lot of power. Okay, I've created a lot of force with the hips. And then the last one, drive for 5. And that's the Seahawks term. Okay, and we do that too. So literally in your tackle drills, even if it's just a basic fit up with your linebackers and they're not moving, the tackler always ends 5 yards behind. Okay, even if those freaking kids don't do that in a game, okay, and they still dive, coach it into them as grade 11. Hopefully by the time they leave you in grade 12, okay, or wherever they go after, if they're playing football, it becomes ingrained. But drive for 5 is so important, okay, because now that's how you create a hitter, is if they run their feet. Nothing else matters if they have dead feet on contact. They're just going to get trucked, okay, unless they're the most explosive kid on the field and they can cheat. Most kids aren't, especially not the Canadian high school level. You have one of 40 even if you have a 40-man roster. So drive for 5. Every tackle drill you do, unless it's the thigh, even if we'll get into it, unless it's rolling, but every tackle drill you do, it ends 5 yards past the point of contact. Okay, and rep that like it's going out of style. So let's go to the video here. And I think this is from, I stole a bunch of stuff. Okay, perfect. This is LSU. So this is just a shuffle, and then boom. And they're doing it at the LSU level, national champions 2 years ago. Okay, they're all the way back. So you can show these clips to the kids, and I do that. I show my guys tackle drills in film. When we do once a week, we meet as a defense for film. I'll show this stuff, especially, again, try not to show them the Jacob Hespeler's high school gym for some of your drills. Show them, find pros, find D1 schools, because then you can say, if these guys are doing it, we should be doing it. Okay, and I find those are the little things that sell to kids, because ultimately we do have to be a bit of a salesman as a coach to get our kids to buy into some of the stuff we ask them to do. I know we say we shouldn't, but we do, and that's just our life as high school coaches. Profile tackle. So this is angle tackling. So the big difference here is near hip to near hip. Everything else kind of will fall in line. Okay, so then we have shoot the hands, grab high cloth, roll the hips, eyes to sky, drive for 5. So near hip to near hip. Okay, and I'll show you this in this is the Seahawks video. Hopefully I don't get an ad yet. All right, here we go. So this is our basic diamond tackle drill that we've performed as players, or we've run at some point as coaches. Okay, so near hip, this guy, the ball carrier here, the guy with the bag. And I show this one to my guys, and here's why. This is tackle drill without pads. Okay, so if you're at a certain level where you guys, we don't take the pads out every day, or you're worried about gotta have pads on, or the kids, we're not going to get good, we're not going to get tough. Well, you can do some of this stuff without pads. And here's one. And we do that. We do pre-practice. Those first 2 weeks, every day is safe contact tackling. And I'll run the whole team through. Now you should see the freaking quarterback try and tackle. It's a joke, but he does it. But we get our receivers, our running backs, our quarterback, our freaking kicker, and he'll do some tackle drills. We do that for the first 2 weeks, for the first 10 minutes of every practice. For those first 2 weeks, and then it becomes a defensive specific thing. But so near hip to near hip, what's going to happen is this guy's running here to his right, the defender's left. Near hip is this guy's left hip is closest to his left hip is going to meet nearest to his left hip when they come on contact. So that's your aiming point. So he's right there, left hip to left hip, head not across the body. Okay, now the one thing with no pads is it's hard to grab the high cloth, but everything else you can kind of do. And then here, and then the drive for 5. So right there. So this is a cool thing. This is why I like this video, is when you go near hip and you drive, you take the offensive player off of his feet. Literally take them, not both. You're not trying to light them up, but good solid contact on that hip specifically, not reaching across, okay, and having your feet behind you, but hip to hip and fit them up. Even if your head's not across, you take away one leg of the ball carrier. Okay, and again, back to proper pursuit. If you're trailing him by a half step, you allowing your defensive players to be super aggressive and be able to be in position for cutback. Okay, the biggest thing I do with my guys, and it's a struggle, I try to eliminate breaking down to make a tackle. Okay, I take, again, that's another term I take out of my vocabulary when I coach. Kids are going to naturally chatter their feet. They've been told in some way, shape, or form. So I try and just focus on these things with my technique and my drills that I'm teaching in Indy. Okay, and then hopefully, and then it translates onto the field eventually. That's the hope. And by the end of the season, you will see an improvement. Okay, as long as there's no more breakdown, it's all about angles. Angles and technique. Breaking down is just playing scared. Angles and technique is playing confident, playing fast, and playing stud backer football. Okay, I'm going to the time. I'm getting tight here. So I'm going to skip through the rest of the tackling here. And I want to get to some gap stuff. So the run fit. So this is what I've been focusing on a lot with my guys and we all say my gap sound football and playing gap, having good gap integrity. I use the term my man, my gap. So whatever lineman by the man is as adjoining that gap or adjacent to. So if you're the will, okay, it's the backside tackle and the guard. Those two players, wherever their feet go, I go. Okay. And then from there, you look through their ankles to the running back. Okay. So again, I talked about my space of 5 yards depth. So my linebackers are 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards all the time. Okay. And then we read gaps. Okay. And I know you can read every single offensive play. The running back step is actually a different run play. Our guys, honestly, we're not there yet. You need some really, really smart players to understand that. And you need the offensive coaches to actually have the running backs do those steps. And that doesn't happen. So reading the lineman is still the best, most efficient way to have your guys be gap sound. I found at least. So you read two, and then from looking through the ankles, you get to the backfield eventually. So they aren't playing blind to the running back, but their initial standpoint is the lineman's ankles. And then with that concept, if that lineman pulls guard or tackle, okay, at any point, if they pull, that linebacker has to move across the formation. Okay. And then because now that gap's been eliminated, either the tackle or the guard, if you're that will. So say that backside guard pulls strong side because it's power strong, he's got to go. And the Mike's got to know he's going to go because his cue, play runs together. We know this. So the Mike's cue is going to be a gap over two now because he's going to see down blocks at his face. So he's got a gap over. Okay. But essentially if that will doesn't go in power, okay, and that gap has been eliminated, now you got the will and the nose tackle in the same gap. And then your backside end is just doing whatever with their backside tackle. So that guard pulls on power, linebacker's got to scrape across. So here are the most common plays. So zone read, split zone, outside zone, power, counter. Jax, I got a couple more minutes, or you want to get to questions?
No, you're good. You can hit, a couple more minutes and then we'll do questions right there at the end.
Okay. So we'll go with inside zone because that's probably the most common one right now. Just from some gap stuff. So two things, some keys to look at. So to get the backside leg of the offensive lineman moving away from you. So what that means is if I'm that will linebacker and it's zone strong, so that backside leg is the guard's backside leg. It's moving away. You want to get as close to that as possible because that tackle is coming down at you. So the more you get to the guard, the further the tackle has to go. If you just try and play in space, you're creating more of a gap, and you're giving that tackle, or the linebacker, I should say, is giving that tackle a better angle to square up. So as long as, I keep saying you guys, I know you're not the players. If they are doing that, if we can get our guys, if we can coach them to chase down the lineman, now staying square, and that's where that change of pace drill comes into play. Keep the shoulders square, but if they can stay tight to the rest of the line as it's moving an inside zone or outside zone, even for that matter, okay, we're going to take away gaps. Okay, and we're also going to eliminate our chance of being blocked. So the further down the wheel, and that's the will. And the same thing for the mic. The difference for the mic, though, is if that guy's moving away now, you're going to eliminate a double team, because the quicker you are to cover ground, the faster the linemen are going to identify. They can't spend so much time on the free tech, okay, or the nose if it's going weak side. So now someone's got to chip to you faster. And if they chip faster, the gaps get all screwed up. Now your D lineman goes to make a play. Or if it's high school football, chances are they don't always climb anyways. Now you're just there, and your kid can make the play. Next thing here, this one's really hard to coach up, but this is where the cards come in, and you do the run fits pre-practice, is they don't leave 5 yards until the ball's been declared. Keep them at space, because the running back is relatively behind the line of scrimmage anyways. Then he hits his hole, and then we hit him. A lot of us play 3-down football now. I think that's almost province-wide. 2nd and 8 is a win, right? 2 yards. If they get 2 yards on first down, that's fine. We don't want 7 yards, okay, or 12. But don't ever say this to your kids, but between us as coaches, if you get 2nd and 8, you are winning. You are being successful. You're winning first down. Okay, now it's just pass defense. Okay, but that's the big thing. So you don't be in such a hurry, and try not to let your players be in such a hurry to try and get up to the line of scrimmage, because I got to with the ball carrier, so it's 2nd and 10. That's fine if it's 2nd and 8. All right, it's when he gets too early, and now he's out of his gap, and now that one player has missed his gap assignment, and now the running back's gone 12 yards, and now we're first down again. So keep their depth, and then once they get their gap, once it's declared and they're going to go, they got to commit, and they got to go balls out. And one misconception I find, inside zone, and Jax, I know you can attest this from coaching running backs at Laurier, inside zone is not a finesse play. Those linemen are coming, and they're coming hard. So your guys need to know that when they have to engage an alignment, they gotta kind of buckle down and be ready for some contact. Okay, it's not. I know because everyone watches NFL Sundays, and they talk about the inside zone teams. They're a little more finesse. They're not power football. And while that's true, you don't have pulling linemen. Doesn't mean those linemen are any less physical. They come off the ball and they go downhill. You watch 2 years ago when the Niners went to the Super Bowl, all they run is zone, and those guys got off the ball and they kicked some ass. All right, and they just kept chunking 10 yards at a time. They'll come off the ball and they're looking to make some contact. And so if your linebackers are coached up not to think that zone is like easier, because I feel like I've heard that and I get that vibe sometimes. It's just as much of a hard run play as power. There's still a lineman coming to take a linebacker's head off at the end of the day. So move with the lineman, get to the hip. As soon as that keep them at 5 yards, and as soon as they declare, then they bust their ass, because it is a relatively small hole, hopefully, and then it's got to go make a big tackle at the point of contact.
Hey, Coach, there's one question I want to get answer here, because because the head coach panel is next, and there's some guys with some interesting time windows. I think Farhan's joining us in the intermission.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'll get out of here. Yeah.
No. This is great, and thanks again so much for doing this. And it's been one of our best attended ones so far. And I know the information guys the feedback in the chat's been awesome. There's a couple really good questions here. What are 3 things a smart linebacker is thinking about when they break the huddle?
down and distance, identify formation, and then whatever pre-coached up like your week to focus key. So if it's a player, like you play a team that has a really athletic W type receiver, and they move them all across the formation. So then I guess before you get to the players, if you have a check or an adjustment to make. So always know you're down in distance, because then you got to adjust people accordingly, or how to play. Like if it's 2nd and 10, you know, to always come up a little more loose, or if it's 2nd and 1, be ready for a run and be ready for friggin' hard counts by the offense. Drives me nuts when we give away first downs on 2nd and 1. So down distance is still, it seems like an old school coach answer, but still super valuable. But then identifying key formations and knowing your checks if you have them built in. Okay.
Awesome.
That's the big one for us, at least.
For sure. Great, guys. And like Coach Magic said, I'm happy to connect you guys and get you this stuff. But I got to shut this Zoom down and fire up the next one. But that, Coach, that was awesome. Again, thanks so much for making the time.
Thanks, Jax. Yeah, sorry about the confusion there. I appreciate it.
No worries. No worries.
Fire away, guys. I'll be happy to email. Working from home, nice distraction, talk some football. Appreciate it.
We'll be back live here in about 2 minutes. If you check back in, I just got to go get the head coaching panel set up, and we got head coaches from all the way from Halifax to Vancouver, and it's an open question period. So, you guys will be able to get your questions